Thunderbirds are go.
It was a crisp summer's day over the middle of the Indian Ocean, with the hot sun beating down onto the inviting blue waters below. This quiet part of the world only disturbed by the gentle roar of an aircraft flying overhead. High above, a CV-9 remote-controlled cargo plane flew just above the food clouds that blotted out the otherwise clear skies. Travelling from Australia, it carried refrigerated meats and other foodstuff for the high-end markets of South Africa. This completely unmanned aircraft is guided only by a sophisticated computer that could stay far more focused than any human pilot for far longer. Not that it mattered who was at the controls of this aircraft, for soon it would meet its end. Thousands of feet below, a sleek, unmarked submarine slowly emerged onto the surface, disturbing the otherwise tranquil ocean. Halfway down its dark hull sat a sealed armoured turret with twin 8-inch guns, ready to maul any that came too close. Behind this sat its conning tower, standing tall above the turret and with a mad array of electronic detection and signal jamming devices. Once the craft had settled, a hatch forward on the deck opened up, from which a platform ascended, carrying a single sea-to-air missile, which quickly angled up as it locked on and fired. The CV-9 did not pick up the submarine nor see the incoming threat on its radar until it was far too late. The missile impacted at the base of the tail, tearing most of it off and rendering most of the other controlled surfaces inoperable. At exactly 11:09 AM local time, the CV-9 plunged into the Indian Ocean and exploded, creating a large plume of water and a mighty boom that could have been heard from miles around. Soon after impact, the hostile submarine submerged and disappeared beneath the waves, leaving only scattered wreckage as evidence of their crime. Located in the pristine dockyards of Singapore, stands the headquarters of the Royal Navy Southeastern Fleet. Unusually for a somewhat stuffy and formal location, the sound of jazz music could be heard emanating from the tallest building. The facility's main meeting room was filled with Navy officers from various ranks and divisions, stood around chatting with high-quality drink in hand. Two of the oldest of them stood by an open window that looked out onto the anchored fleet. "I do say, Wilkinson, old boy," began the oldest, "it was jolly nice of you to forward all this on for me." "Well, sir, after 47 years of service, it's the least we can do to send you off." The old fleet admiral smiled. "I do wish you would call me Gerard again, like we did back in the old days, especially now that we're same rank again." "Oh, sorry, force habit and whatnot," Wilkinson replied, swirling his brandy around in his glass. "And thank you again for the recommendation as your replacement." It was then that a young petty officer stepped up behind them, holding a tray with a single folded note on it. "Excuse me, sirs. Message for the Fleet Admiral." Oh, that's not me anymore, son, Gerard chuckled, gesturing to his replacement. Wilkinson reached out for the note. I'll take that, Collins. Gerard went back to his brandy as the note was opened. Nothing too serious, I hope, dear boy, noticing the concerned look on Wilkinson's normally jovial face. Could be, Wilkinson replied. Another one of those remote-controlled cargo planes has disappeared over the Indian Ocean. That's the 5th in 2 months now, isn't it? Yes, Wilkinson nodded. And 8 in total this year. Gerard finished off his brandy. You'll need to keep a close eye on what's going on out there. Yes, I have a few contacts making a few discreet inquiries in this area for me. Wilkinson looked up from his note. But speaking of the Indian Ocean, isn't that where you're taking your retirement holiday? Oh yes, Gerard grinned. Just taking the old gal out for a spin. A week after his retirement party, Gerard, the former Royal Navy Admiral, could be found sailing deep into the Indian Ocean on the Ye Old Girl, his personal yacht. The weather could be described as perfect, an almost clear sky with a gentle breeze taking the edge off the midday sun. Gerard was at the helm, making minor course corrections for the journey to the Maldives. Coming up from the galley, his wife of 47 years brought up 2 glasses of mixed berry juice. Here you are, dear, she said with a smile. Oh, thank you, Barbara. Gerard took a glass and sipped from it. Barbara looked out over the bow of the yacht, to the endless waters stretching to the horizon. It's so quiet out here. Yes, Gerard mused. I think we're the only souls for hundreds of miles or more. Just you and me, Barbara. Travelling silently under the surface, Captain Hayward aboard his submarine entered its bridge. Mr. Richardson, report. Target aircraft will come into range in 20 minutes, sir. Hayward sat in his command chair. Is the surface clear? Richardson turned to his sonar screen. Surface clear, sir. Hayward looked up from his tactical display. You certain? You were complaining earlier that it was giving you false readings. I believe I've fixed those issues now, sir. Very good, Hayward nodded. Surface and prepare to fire. The Zeke submarine quickly raised and surfaced, unwittingly less than 500 metres from the Yale Girl's bow. Gerard immediately cut engines and brought his vessel to a crawl. Ah, are these some of your old colleagues, dear? Barbara asked innocently. I don't think so, Barbara. I don't recognise this class of submarine at all. Gerard reached for his small portable video camera, bringing it up to his eye and hitting record. The couple had a front row seat as the mysterious vessel opened up and unveiled its missile platform. They froze for a moment, fearing that it was they who were the target, but it was quickly dispelled as once again the missile aimed skywards and fired. Gerard zoomed in with his device and soon spotted its target, another CV-9 remote-controlled cargo plane. The pair watched helplessly as the missile hit, ripping its entire tail assembly off. 45 seconds later, the CV-9 crashed into the Indian Ocean, belly first. Gosh, Gerard put down his camera. So that's what's going on out here. Oh, Gerard, do you think they've seen us? I'm not waiting to find out. Hold on tight, Barbara. Gerard grabbed the helm and made Yogo turn away from the submarine, gunning the engine to full and tearing off at speed. This sudden burst of speed betrayed its presence as a blip appeared on Richardson's screen. "Sir! Vessel on the surface." "What?" Hayward swiveled around. "How did he get there?" "I don't know, sir," he replied, switching the feed on his screen to a remotely operated camera. "It's some kind of small yacht and it's speeding away from us." Hayward slammed his fist against his console. "Bring the main guns online. Destroy it!" Barbara Cunningham was currently experiencing the most terrifying hour of her life. Salvo after salvo of 8-inch high explosive shells were landing all around the old girl. Gerard was using all his skill and knowledge as a man of the Navy to evade them. Plumes of water rose on all sides, several too close for comfort. Windows were shattered and fittings were torn away by the blasts. After what felt like an age, the ye old girl finally poured out a rain of the submarine's guns. The now enraged Harewood barked orders to dive and break away west at full speed. Even after the vessel had disappeared beneath the ocean, Gerard did not reduce speed until he reached the shallow waters of a small set of islands. Barbara looked for a shattered window facing astern. Think we lost him, dear? Gerard scanned the ocean behind them. I think we have. He picked up his camera and checked it wasn't damaged. I'm sorry, Barbara, but it looks like I'm cutting my retirement short. 4 days later, Gerard was back in the World Navy Southeastern Headquarters, in the same room that hosted his retirement party. It had been reconfigured for a high-intensity meeting, with a long and broad table at the centre, along with armed guards at every door and armoured shutters sealing off the large windows. Gerard, now back in uniform, stood beside a screen showing the footage he had captured of the missile attack. Admiral Wilkinson was at the head of the table. Also seated were multiple admirals and staff of navies that operate in the area of the Indian Ocean. Also present were the representatives of the French, American and British navies. They watched the screen and listened to Gerard's detailed account of the following chase. When he was finished, the screen turned off and retracted into the ceiling. Thank you, Admiral Gerard. Wilkinson rose from his seat and turned to the men at the table. Gentlemen, we now know who and what we are dealing with. If you inspect the files we have prepared for you, the submarine in question goes by the codename Great Whale. Our intelligence agencies had believed that this was the name of an individual or small group planting bombs on these aircraft. Now we know better. With such a weapon, and with their reputation, it's only a matter of time before they start targeting passenger aircraft. Gentlemen, Wilkinson ushered, I have called this meeting to discuss how to counter this threat. As members of the World Navy, your support will be vital if we are to stop this new menace. Also, I have taken the liberty of inviting a member of International Rescue to this meeting. Wilkinson looked down at a speaker built into the table. Mr. X, can you hear us? The voice of Jeff Tracy answered, confirming that he could hear them perfectly. Right then, Wilkinson looked up at the others. This is my plan of action. Up in the main villa, the Tracy brothers gathered around the main room, waiting for their father. On the wall, John's portrait lit up, and Scott moved over to answer. Hi Scott, anything from father yet? Nothing, Gordon said, looking up from his chess game with Virgil. It's been nearly 5 hours and no word. He then looked back as Virgil declared checkmate. Sitting next to Tintin, Alan added, I wonder what this is all about. Well, want to know more, Jeff said as he entered the room, followed by Brains. That was the World Navy. It appears that those cargo plane disappearances are being caused by the same group that brought down Fireflash 3, he explained. The same one that Gordon had a gunfight with a year ago. Geez, Gordon exclaimed. What are we going to do about it, father? We? Jeff looked at him. We are a rescue outfit, not a military organization. This is the Navy's job. No, we are to remain on standby. He looked up at the portraits. John, I want you to keep a close tabs on the military frequencies just in case. John gave an FAB as Scott asked, in case of what, father? Jeff thought for a second. I just got that feeling that this may all go south very fast. 4 days after the meeting, the Indian Ocean was alive with activity. Every navy from Australia to India and down to South Africa had set sail in anger. Over 100 vessels from simple patrol craft to destroyers and cruisers roamed the surface. And beneath the waves, packs of hunter-killer submarines combed the seabed. Hundreds more maritime aircraft flew above them, searching for every inch of ocean. Controlling each sector was an aircraft carrier from several nations, or a supercarrier from Britain or the US. And at its heart was the World Navy flagship Atlantic, the largest warship ever to set sail. Here, Admiral Wilkinson coordinated the task forces and received regular updates. He mostly kept tabs on the 13 remote-controlled planes with fake transponders, which were being used as bait. "7 hours and 23 minutes into the operation, the bait was taken. Approximately 390 miles northwest of Broome, Australia, the great whale had surfaced. Hayward had decided to make one final attack before leaving the Indian Ocean for new hunting grounds. After double-checking that the surface was clear, the great whale locked on with its missile and fired. Unwittingly, they had targeted the bait aircraft Alpha 12, and even before the missile struck, the task force was moving in. Hayward watched the target nosedive into the ocean, but something was off. It looked far too small for a cargo plane. Instead of diving as normal, he delayed, pondering his thoughts out loud as he looked at the wreckage through binoculars. Then an alert chimed from the terminal. "Sir, vessel on the surface," Richardson yelled. "Approaching us from the west on an intercept course. 95 knots, sir." Hayward turned his sights westward. "It looks like a French destroyer. Concorde class." "Shall we dive, sir?" "No, it will be on top of us before we can get away." Hayward looked back at Richardson. "Open fire, and don't miss this time." The destroyer opened fire with its 4-inch guns, but its range and its accuracy was poor. The Great Whale returned fire, its first volley scoring a direct hit on its midsection and knocking out the destroyer's engines. Its second salvo struck the ship's forward magazine, blowing the ship apart. Hayward did not stick around to celebrate, ordering them to dive and head east towards the Timor Sea. But they didn't get far before trouble reared up. Approaching from the east was the Australian submarine Cook, with another hunter-killer USS Barb threatening to catch it from the west. Cook launched a wave of torpedoes, but the Great Whale managed to dodge or draw them away with her lures. Hayward fired a single torpedo in response. It sailed true and ripped the Cook apart. USS Barb moved in to take full advantage of its target's distraction and fired 3 torpedoes, one of which was a direct hit. Then it lost sonar contact as the Great Whale descended, apparently sinking. What the US sub did not realise was that its target was both undamaged and was now lying in ambush. As Barr moved in to confirm the kill, all contact with the submarine was lost. Hanging high above the world in Thunderbird 5, John listened intently to the World Navy communications. The news was grim. Contact had been lost with 4 hunter-killer submarines and the Concorde. Now all that stood in the Great Whale's way were 2 Royal Navy destroyers, HMS Hunter and HMS Hotspur. The 2 ships picked up the submarine and launched an all-out assault that lasted for nearly an hour. Multiple ship and helicopter launched torpedoes were fired, with at least 2 believed to have hit. Then John listened in horror as Hotspur was blown in 2 and sank rapidly. The Hunter was then hit in the stern, taking out its propulsion and leaving it dead in the water. With the main task force now trailing behind her, nothing and no one stood between the Great Whale and the Pacific. "Go ahead, John." "Father, It's going badly for the World Navy. A hole has been punched through their line and the target sub is about to escape into the Pacific. Right, John, Jeff sat up in his chair. Contact the aircraft carrier Atlantic and let them know we're on our way. FAB, Father. Boys, this is it. Jeff rose to his feet. Thunderbirds are go. Thunderbird 1 hovered 100 miles south of New Caledonia, dangling its sonar tracking array into the deep waters below. Soon enough he made contact as the great whale sailed within range. Scott then relayed its course and speed to the World Navy and base control. On board Thunderbird 2, Gordon plotted this down on a map and came to a realization. I know where they're going. Do you remember where we tested Thunderbird 4 after it was built? The Graham Ridges, Virgil answered. Yes. Gordon pointed to this on the map. Massive rock formations and huge caves. You think they're going to hide there while the World Navy passes over? Alan chipped in. Yes, but, Gordon continued, I know this place like the back of my hand. I know I can hold them off there. Right then, Virgil switched on the radio. Base from Thunderbird 2, base from Thunderbird 2. We believe the target is heading for the Graham Ridges, and we are moving in to set an ambush. Okay, Virgil, Jeff replied. Brains has been looking over the video recordings, and he thinks he may have found a weakness. Some sort of water intake port. Charting through the Coral Sea, the Atlantic was desperately trying to catch up, to the point where that if any of his escorts couldn't keep up, they were simply left to fend for themselves. Then news filtered through from International Rescue. The Graham Ridges, Admiral Wilkinson murmured, looking down at the charts of the air. Clever. Very clever. Hopefully they can delay her enough for us to arrive. He looked up his subordinates. Signal the fleet. Set course for the Graham Ridges, best possible speed, engines be damned. As his orders were being carried out, he turned back to his charts. It's up to them now. Thunderbird 2 and base from Thunderbird 4 taking up position now. Sir, we're about to enter the ridges, but there appears to be some vessels in the area. What kind? Hayward demanded. After a moment, Richardson answered, It appears to be a barge and a mini-submarine of some kind, sir. Probably a research vessel of some sort. Leave them be and maintain course. Where the blazes did that come from? Hayward shouted. It was from that mini-submarine, sir. Return fire! It's using the ridges as cover, sir. Then level it. Gordon, what's going on down there? Not now, Scott. Scott, I've been hit, Gordon barked over the radio. My portside thrusters are gone. I'm going to have to surface. Sir, the main cooling port has been damaged. The reactor's beginning to overheat. Get us to the surface now, before it kills us all. Reactor calming down, sir. Good. Now where's that enemy vessel? Sir, the enemy sub has surfaced on our port beam. It looks like they're drifting, sir. Bring the guns online. I want it destroyed. Firing now, sir. As the smoke cleared, Virgil could see the mangled remains of the whale's guns. Good shooting, Alan. Reload and I'll come in for another pass. Oh, no need, Virgil, Scott chimed in. The cavalry's arrived. Appearing from the horizon at great speed came the two fastest ships the World Navy had, HMS Vendetta and USS Sentinel. Screaming high above them were the strike aircraft of the Atlantic. They reached the danger zone first and began circling the stricken sub. Squadron leader to Thunderbird 1, permission to engage. She's all yours. Thunderbird 1. Yellowcraft is friendly. Repeat, Yellowcraft is friendly. Roger that. Correcting fire. Squadron leader from Thunderbird 1. Order attack immediately. They've had enough. HMS Vendetta from Thunderbird 1. Move in and pick up survivors.
HMS Vendetta to Thunderbird 1, copy that.
Thunderbird 1 and 2 from Thunderbird 4. Due to damage sustained, I'm unable to return to the pod. Any attempt to do so might sink her. Well, that's a problem we didn't need. International Rescue, this is Sentinel. We'll pick up Thunderbird 4 and transport it to Singapore. We can offload it there for you. Roger that, Sentinel. See you in Singapore. Well, there she goes. Slowly, but with gathering speed, the great whale slipped beneath the waves, stern first, its former crew watching helplessly from their life rafts. Then, later, it would come to rest on the ocean floor. The strike cruiser USS Sentinel began to lower its speed as it approached the waters of Singapore. It had made good time, arriving less than a day from the Battle of the Great Whale. Up in its bridge, Gordon Tracy and the ship's commander were studying a video screen. On it was a live feed of Captain Hayward currently being interrogated. Hayward remained resolute and unmoving, caring not for the lives lost this day. Soon enough, he turned on the interrogators in a tirade of accusations and insults. He began to monologue about how they were righteous. Before he outlined his glorious motives, the screen was switched off by the commander. I don't think we need to listen to that nonsense again. It makes you wonder where they find these guys, Gorn remarked. We need not worry, the commander reassured. There's always good men like yourself standing in their way. Gordon nodded as First Officer Clayton approached them. Excuse me, sirs. We're about to reach our dock. I'd best get back to Thunderbird 4 and get it ready. Gordon turned to the commander. It was good to see you again, sir, and thank you. Mr. Tracy. Gordon looked back. Thank you. Not long after docking, Thunderbird 4 was offloaded from the Sentinel. With the use of cranes and heavy haulage equipment, the dock crews moved it over and loaded it into the pod of Thunderbird 2, which was waiting in the nearby helipad. The operation was completed in good time, and soon after, Virgil asked permission to take off. Control tower to Thunderbird 2. Permission granted, and safe journey.